So you did all the research, you narrowed your choices down, you packed your bags, you got everything ready. You go to this new place, right? You've moved, you've chosen it, and you don't like it. What do? Let's talk about it. Hey, it's Cocoa Nomad here, and on this channel I talk about location and financial independence and remote work and travel mostly. So today's question, I wanted to dive into something that I know a lot of people struggle and wrestle with, and sometimes I do as well, and that's quite simply, what if you pick a place and it's the wrong place? And I wanted to dive into that and unpack some of the scenarios. Like right now, I am wrestling with the next place that I'm going to go. I have a few options. Some of the options are places I've been before, so they're known things, but a few of them are new places I've never visited before, and I'm not quite sure what to expect. Now, by and large, I've had a lot of success in picking locations. There have been very few places that I've visited that I wouldn't say I necessarily regret it, but I would say, I probably spent enough time there, I wouldn't necessarily go back, maybe for anything more than a 2 or 3 day visit. But if you are relocating or you're planning to spend a long amount of time somewhere and you invest a lot of time, a lot of energy into moving to this new place, you may get there, spend some time there and decide, this isn't the place for me. It's not what I expected, and it's just been a bit of a disappointment if we're being honest. What do? How do you handle that? And so I wanted to just offer a few suggestions or some things that you can do before you pick up and go and move on to the next place, which is still an option. You can absolutely do that. I'm not saying don't pick up and go. You can absolutely pick up and go, but maybe do a quick assessment before you pull the eject button, okay? So let's see. So the first thing is just what is specifically not working in the place that you are. And I break it down into a couple of categories. Look at the social, financial, cultural, and environmental areas and see what specifically in this place isn't working for you or isn't matching your expectation. And an easy way to do that is just to make a simple list. Note all of the expectations that you had coming in, what you expected to get in those categories, and then the reality, what you experienced. What was your experience in each of these things? So what were your social expectations when you decided to go to this place, move to this place, or live there? What was your experience? What was your financial expectation and what was your experience? What were your environmental expectations and what was your experience? And then your cultural expectations and your experience. So some of those things you can drill into about whether or not you were making the kinds of connections you wanted. Are the local norms very disruptive and more than you can handle? Maybe you thought you were prepared to live in a different culture and it's just not happening for you. Maybe you thought that the cost of living would be beneficial and that's not happening. And that could even include things like maybe you had a job lined up. Maybe you thought you were going to get this client work and that was going to sustain you. I've actually had that happen to me in the past, and I've shared this before. Like I left the job and then I had a client that on retainer, and then I ended up losing that client, and it really kind of threw me for a loop, and it really changed my expectations. Like my expectations that would sustain me because it would cover my living expenses, and then that went away. And so then I was actually having to go into my savings to sustain myself until I could find another project. So you want to be mindful of that. Another one is the environment. I've had friends in cities that actually liked the city but had to leave. And one of the environmental things was, quite frankly, the air quality. So maybe you get to a place and you have a neighborhood that you live in and the traffic's really bad or the noise is really loud and you don't find it comfortable and there are some issues there. Maybe the air quality or things of that nature. Or there might be some local upheaval, which has actually happened recently in some places, and that's really scared some people off of going to a particular location. And I'm talking specifically about Colombia. There were some things that happened about a month or so ago, a protest and things of that nature that really had people rethinking whether or not they should go there. And then there were people who were there who were thinking, oh geez, maybe it is time for me to leave and maybe this isn't a place that I need to stay. So these are all things that can change, and most of it though is like your expectations. So it's really important to manage your expectations. I like to have a list of what I'm looking to get out of a place when I go, so that I sort of can set my expectations when I'm going somewhere, and then just assess how is it matching with reality. One thing that you could consider doing too, before you just pack up and leave is maybe it only requires a change in neighborhood. I've lived in, for instance, in Mexico City, I've lived in multiple neighborhoods, right? I've lived in Avarte, I've lived in Condesa, I've lived in Roma, I've lived in Del Valle, and for me, the place that was the most comfortable for me was Del Valle, which is where I tend to return every time I go back. And it's not a knock on some of the other places, they're fine. Some were less than optimal. Maybe I just didn't like the location in terms of my ability to get to other places that I wanted to be. Whereas Del Valle had everything that I wanted right there within walking distance of the neighborhood. There's a park where I could walk, there's restaurants, there's places for me to work. Everything was super comfortable. So for me, a change in neighborhood, and I tried different neighborhoods just to see if there was something better. Very similarly, in Playa del Carmen, it's the same thing, where I've lived in a couple of different neighborhoods and trying to figure out what works best for me, what area of town, and that can help sometimes. And on the social front, sometimes it's as simple as sort of changing your circle. I know it's very comfortable to be within like a community of people that you're familiar with, whether it's a travel community that you know or an expat community that you know, but maybe you're really looking for something different and your expectation, or quite the opposite. You go in with this idea, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna go and live with local people and I'm just gonna have this amazing experience. And then it's just too disruptive culturally, like the norms are too different, you're not, and you're giving it a fair shake, but it's just not working for you. So don't be afraid to change some of these things. Change some of the environments maybe before you leave that place completely. Now the financial one's a little different, or the environmental one too. Like if you can't change the air quality and you have breathing issues or things like that are definitely impacting your health, then that may be a deal breaker. And financially too, if you need to relocate because the job situation or the employment situation or the financial situation isn't working for you, you may just have to, make those changes. But I'm only suggesting that there are some modifications that you might want to make before you give up on a place. And then finally, I just want to leave you with this. Even if it doesn't work out and you go somewhere else, just learn from the experience. There are really no wrong choices. You're on this journey to find an optimal place. And some of us, like me, I'm not looking for an optimal place. I'm just looking for the next place that works. And then I just have a bunch of places that I frequent because I like them, but I'm always open to trying new places. And so there are no wrong answers. There's no like wrong place. If you spend 3 to 6 months in a place and it doesn't work out, it's still an experience that you can learn from. You learn about yourself. You learn what you like. You learn what you don't like. You might also learn that some of the things that you think you wanted, you didn't really want. And you're free to go and try another place. And you can always come back. Maybe some other situations change and the place will be different because your situation is different. I mean, a great example of that is if your financial situation changes, if money was no object, what is your experience in that place? A lot of places, if we're being honest, work if money is no object. You can live almost anywhere. So be mindful of that and just be conscious of the fact that some of these other factors play into your experience of a place. Maybe your language skills improve and that changes how you enjoy a place. So don't be afraid to go somewhere and have it not be everything that you imagined it would be. It's not necessarily going to solve all your problems. I know the phrase magical places are used a lot, but there's no such thing. There's no magical place. The magic is what you bring with you, quite frankly. So if you can make a go of it and it works for you, and that doesn't necessarily work for everybody. I see a lot of people going to places that are popular amongst their circle and their peers, and it may work for their peers and it doesn't work for them. So you want to make sure that you're getting the most because it's your life and it's your choice and you have to live there. If it's not an optimal place for you, find another place. If your friends are there, your community's there, you can always go visit them on vacation. That's also an option. So I hope this helps in thinking about relieving that fear of making a quote unquote wrong choice and just moving forward bravely and strongly and just saying, hey, I'm just going to experience. Hope everything goes away. Have an amazing day. Hit the like button and I think that's it. Cheers.